All right, everybody. Happy 10/10. It is October 10th, 2024. Our audio issues, I believe, are fixed. And it turns
Hopefully.
out, it turns out that it wasn't my problem. It was my producer's problem the
Me
whole
equals
time.
idiot. Me
I
equals
was
idiot.
literally sweating. I was sweating, running around trying to figure out what was going wrong. And it turns out I had done nothing wrong. And it turns out that I might have to fire my producer, AJ Darrow,
wow.
who happens to be here. But
That's
I will say,
phenomenal that you
that's
would
not a
start the
threat.
show like that. Oh,
It's not a threat. It's just an ultimatum. Either figure it out or you're fired. It's not a threat, though.
okay,
it's not a threat.
Rome.
Okay.
From Survivor.
Oh my God. Anyway, I mean, all joking aside, sir, how are you today? It's October 10th. It's a cold as heck day out here in Ontario.
Surprisingly, even though the Leafs lost, I'm feeling really great.
Well, that's good. I mean, it was a good game.
Yeah,
I'll
and
say
we'll get into it a little later. But I'm excited.
So, welcome to Scouching Live. Of course, it's a lovely day down here in cloudy Southern Ontario. But anyway, before we get into the show, we'll run through our little advertisements here. We're brought to you by Fanatics. You can use our affiliate link below or scan the QR code in the window to provide a kickback on anything you buy in the store. We're also brought to you by Puck Preps Hockey to get all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs. There's lots coming there with the whole NCAA CHL changes, which I'm sure we could probably go over at some point in the near future. We're also brought to you by Fractal Hockey Consulting, which is my business for targeted player analysis and recruitment packages for the NCAA Europe and beyond, with solutions for anyone's needs. And of course, Scouching.ca to get access to a Discord server, our exclusive NHL prospect data, insights into the track data that I gather, as well as subscriber-only written content and plenty of other cool stuff. Head over to Scouching.ca and get yourself subscribed, or you can check out our merch store at Scouchware.com. And of course, if you just want to send me money, you can go to Buy Me a Coffee. The link is in the description, and you could just send us money. We talked about an office space on Monday night, and we're starting to look into that. That would be a lot of fun if we could make it happen. So if anyone wants to cut a check for $20,000 and send it to us for a really expensive cup of coffee, we're all ears.
The most expensive cup of Joe you'll ever purchase.
Exactly. But anyway, so today what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about some guys that I've had a look at over the last couple of weeks, or of the last week, that I want to go over in a bit of detail, and then talk about the beginning of the NHL season a little bit and how things have been going. But while people are still filing in perhaps a little bit, sir, I mean, I feel like I made the joke early off the top of the show, but I feel like we kind of have to make a little bit of a discussion while people file in about this crazy, crazy season of Survivor. First of all, I'm loving it. I'm loving this season a ton. And if anyone has never seen this show before, I feel like this season's a really good one. You know, I don't know, but there's a cast of characters that I just adore so far. How are you feeling about all this so far?
Do you really adore them, or do you just adore them from a television perspective? Because
from a television perspective, yeah.
Okay, that sounds more reasonable to me, because you've said to me that you feel like you would not get along with some of these cast members.
No, not at all. No. I would get thrown off the island. They'd literally drown me in the ocean probably at this point. Not at all.
Yeah, I could, because I have a more familiar relationship with Will. Like I know when he gets frustrated, and I could just see him boiling over in like this kind of, like, you're not overly loud when you're frustrated.
No.
But it's just like you've got this shake sound. I don't know. But I could just hear it. I could just hear the, oh my God.
Yes. And I have a very low tolerance for people jerking me around, you know, like like anything that isn't going the way that I expect it to go, I lose my mind so quickly. Like if I'm on the phone and a customer service person is like, I'm going to transfer you to this person. I know that makes everyone annoyed, but like I'm like Dennis Reynolds in that episode of Always Sunny. Dennis takes a mental health break when he's on the phone with the electric car company. It's like that for me. Like I'm on the ground, like screaming into the phone. It's terrible. And so if I were on Survivor with some of these characters, man, I like, they're leaky as a faucet in an old house. They tell everyone everything. They're just, I mean, I don't know. I feel like in the last few seasons, there have been a lot of these tribe groups who are like real kumbaya. They're like, oh, we all love each other and everyone loves each other. And I don't want to vote anyone out. I don't have time for that. I'd rather it be a little chaotic and hectic and active than me just liking everyone and being like, all right, I guess this is fine.
Well, you didn't like the Green Tribe last year, whatever they were called?
No. And especially because later on in the game, it just makes it so much harder. It's like, well, you have to vote some of these people out. And I feel like it's so risky at that point to be like, well, I got to draw the line somewhere. And I got to, I don't know. Because like, I feel like you and I talk a little bit about how we would do on a show like that. And I feel like, I don't know. I feel like it could go either way for me, honestly. I'm a pretty good bushman, I will say. I went to summer camp for 7 years. And so I've got some decent skills in the woods and survival skills. But other than that, I don't know. I feel like it really depends on the group of people around me, because I feel like certain people will make me want to just jump into the ocean with a rock tied to my foot. But I could actually get along with people fine if it's a different group of people.
Yeah, it would all be scenario dependent for me, I think. But I think I just try and play a low profile game throughout the start and just be an option for all the people looking to make big moves, and then try and become more active later. But that's just, you can say all the right things and think you have a great strategy, and then all of a sudden you're gone. So that's kind of the way it goes with that.
Yeah. I mean, it also just, it's kind of like winning the Stanley Cup too. It's like,
or winning an opening night game.
Yeah,
you do all the right things and you don't win, but
exactly, it's really tricky. Sometimes the best candidate does not win. Sometimes the best team does not win. We were talking last night when the Leafs were losing. It's like you were saying, how are they losing? How are they losing this game? How's it possible?
I wasn't.
Sometimes the best team doesn't.
That was a
win,
bit of hyperbole. I did that was hyperbole. I'm not gonna lie. I know how they're losing. They're getting goalied.
Well, yeah,
and they look. Do you want to transition into that now, since we've already started on the conversation?
Yeah, let's do that.
I think that the Leafs looked phenomenal. Yes, were they shut out for like the first time in 3 years, breaking the longest active non-shutout streak in the NHL? Yeah, it happened. Am I sad about it? Kind of, because I really liked that, like holding on to that piece of nobody can shut us out, and then Montreal does it game one. So that's a little annoying, but god dang, this team, the way they're playing, looks awesome. They are playing like the Florida Panthers of last year, like the style. There were times where they just went in, right? Like I was telling you before we got on the show, I remember a third line shift where Max Pacioretty goes in, hits a guy on the forecheck, then Nick Robertson hits the guy on the forecheck, and then Pontus Holmberg hits a guy on the forecheck. Like all in the same shift in back-to-back-to-back plays, essentially.
Yep.
It's cool. I love it.
It is. I mean, I think it's very different. One thing I picked up on too is like they seem to be wanting Austin Matthews to be more of a playmaker. I noticed a few times where I'm like, I feel like in years prior he would have shot that puck. He would have, he's looking for the goals a lot of the time, which is great. I mean, he should. He's the guy who scores goals, but there were some moments where I went, all right, he's looking for other guys and trying to make little creative plays. And I don't know if that's Craig Berube getting in his ear and being like, hey man, like you're an unbelievable goal scorer, but if we could find a way for you to be a 50 goal scorer instead of a 65 goal scorer, but have 60 assists.
Yeah, but he took 6 shots yesterday. It's not like he's not shooting, right? Mitch Marner took 6 shots yesterday.
Well, everybody had the team had what, 50 shots last night or
something around that. It was something around that.
The
player that did, I think, had the least amount of shots, like in terms of what you would expect, William Nylander had 1. So that was a little weird for me. And he's a guy that shoots around 3 to 4 a game.
Well, we all know he's terrible, right? So
absolutely, trade him.
Yeah,
just like Timothy Liljegren. Trade all the Swedes.
Trade him and Liljegren. Yeah, trade all the non-Canadian good boys, and then the Toronto Maple Leafs win the Stanley Cup. So it's an easy formula. But I mean,
Brian Burke.
Yeah, great season opening game though. A lot of the games since the beginning of the season have been a lot of fun, honestly. Like
Yes.
for various reasons, right? Like we watched a bit of the Oilers game last night,
Oh, that
a
was
bit of the
a
Canucks, a
disaster,
bit of the
but a
Canucks
fun
game last
disaster.
night. Yeah, I mean that Oilers game, man, it was something. Ray and Tubik is in here, and he did not have a nice time. We were chatting with him in the Discord server last night. He did not have a good time. But I mean, when you look at the numbers, it's exactly the same as what happened to the Edmonton Oilers last year.
So
it's literally the exact
so
same
is Knobloch getting fired, and they're gonna bring up a new wonder
Exactly.
coach? Is that what's gonna
Yeah.
happen?
Exactly. They're going to fire Knobloch 10 games into the year, and then they're going to win 70 of the next games, all 70 of the remaining games of the year.
They get swept in the first round this time because hockey is super cruel.
Yeah, but I mean, Stuart Skinner did not have a great night. The Jets didn't look bad, but the Oilers, I mean, Hellebuck also had a really good night too for Winnipeg. But
regular season goalie.
Well, also night one,
yes.
Right? It's night one. Things are crazy the first week anyway. And I can only imagine, right? Like one thing I always like to think about sometimes is like, again, I'm not comparing myself to NHL players, but when I start a new season of hockey or ball hockey or whatever, the first couple of games that you play are so, I want to say meaningful, but it's not exactly that. It's like they're so impactful. Like if you have a good start for the first couple of games, like number one, you get really confident really quick, sometimes overconfident, or if it goes the other way and it's like we just can't buy a goal or we can't do this or we can't do that, and or you're not getting, your goaltender's not settled or whatever, it like just it destroys you. And I feel like over an 80 game season, like it's harder than I thought in my head to think, okay, let's not let the first 10 games sort of get to us. Like I feel like most people say around 20, 25 games is when teams sort of self-reflect a little bit and go, okay, maybe we have what we have. But yeah, I mean, for Edmonton, it's like, I hope the same thing doesn't repeat itself again, where the first month of the year is a disaster. But they had the numbers in their favor last night, but the deserve to win a meter, as Felix says, I mean, the Toronto Maple Leafs were on the deserve to win a meter pretty strongly last night.
Oh, they would have been.
Yeah, but doesn't matter. Deserve to win a meter does not mean win a meter. And
no, it does not, unfortunately.
Yeah.
For me, that is in that case.
Yeah.
Do you want to go back to the Habs game? Because and we can focus more on Montreal after as well, because
yes, they are a very interesting team.
Yeah,
I think
I like them. I think they're gonna be much better this year.
Yeah, they got some spunk to them.
They do, and I mean, it's kind of funny because I was telling you that, like, not that I necessarily meant this, but I always love being a bit of a prick before the games. Like, I'm talking to my brother. Sam Montembeau's ass. We're gonna win this game easy. And then he goes out and does that and makes me feel real dumb. So good on him. But yeah, it's just I've never been as like entertained by an opening game since I've really come back to watching hockey for the Leafs. Like, I think that was the most exciting game. It really was. It really, really was. Like, it was just exhilarating the entire time. The pace of the game was so great. Both teams had a lot of chances early, and then the Leafs really took over but couldn't convert on anything. But it wasn't like those chances weren't dangerous. They were doing really well and putting a lot of pucks on net. It felt like controlled chaos.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that they need to continue to work towards. And even Montreal had a bit of that controlled chaos when they would get in the offensive zone. The way they used like a lot of cross crease passes to try and open up space. And that's how they were able to convert on the Cole Caulfield goal.
Mm-hmm.
And they were super dangerous too throughout the early parts of that game. They kind of waned as it went on. Like I think they just couldn't handle
First
the
period
speed
was much more about
intensity
Montreal,
of the Leafs at the end. But I wouldn't, like, having seen them perform, I'm going to be really curious to see how they do against Boston tonight. Because
you can tell,
Boston was a team I was super underwhelmed with. Yeah, you can go
Yeah,
ahead.
I mean, yeah, I agree. I didn't see a ton of the Boston game, but from what I did see, I mean, they're playing Florida, and it is, I think, two teams on a bit of a different level now.
Yes.
But the thing about Montreal that I love now is like you can tell that the vibes are good.
Hmm.
You know, like when you watch that team play, like they're young for sure. They're a young team, but in my books, I don't really care about that so much. But you can tell that they are quite a talented group of players that have been playing together for a long time. And like I feel like they are a team that really seems to work off of each other really, really well. Like there were some plays working off of trailing forwards on the rush and like tic-tac-toe plays where you just watch it and you're like, I feel like they've practiced this like a
Yeah.
million times over the last 2 years, and it's starting to come together
Starting to click
one
for them,
step at
right?
a time. Now you've added like, and part of the issue for Montreal for me is like they've lacked X factor level talent, right? And I feel like when you have guys like Lane Hudson, for example, last night,
Mhm.
and the things he was doing with the puck, like at one point last night, I saw Lane Hudson working off the half wall, which is what he does, and he crossed up Nick Robertson so bad that Robertson ended up something like 8 feet away from Hudson on a defensive coverage, and it's like I get it, like that's not Nick Robertson's strong suit, but it also kind of is. Like he's quick and he's aggressive, but Lane Hudson just
Makes
crossed
you
him up
bite.
and he went
Just
right
makes
through
you
him.
bite.
He bit, yeah, and he bit a ton, and Hudson was off to the races on that. And I thought he had a few opportunities to score some points, and it was a great game from him. I mean, again, I did a whole thing on him in the offseason about what his game translates like or how it has translated to this point, and it's all there, I think, and I feel like he played really well. And so Montreal, I mean, credit to them. I think they're a team that's gaining momentum. I don't know, like I still believe that was a game that maybe Toronto should have won,
Oh yeah.
but over like I could see how this team could be digging their way out of the bottom of the league in short order.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that they finish. Like I don't know that they're gonna be in a playoff spot. There's a chance. I think that like that is. I'm starting to see how that could happen now with the way they played that one game, but it is one game, so we will see.
Yeah.
Because is Sam Montembeault going to stand on his head like that for the rest of the season? I don't think so. Especially not on the road, because as you said, there was a graphic that rolled last night where he's like
Yeah.
what a 915 at home
It
last
was
year,
something like that,
and is
913, 915,
and
something
an
like that.
890 on the road. So
I don't remember what it was on the road, but it was not nearly as good. I think overall he's a 903 or something, right?
yeah, he's 903 overall last year. I'm pretty sure.
We'll see. I mean, I don't know. I feel like you have to break it down kind of by within the division, right? Like, I don't think they're going to finish above Toronto. I don't think they're going to finish above Florida.
I don't think
they'll
they'll
finish above Tampa. And Boston,
I can see it.
they have a goaltending advantage. Boston has the goaltending advantage, I think, over a big sample, as long as Swayman keeps playing like he has his whole career.
Yep.
But I do think that Montreal's lineup itself, relative to the Boston Bruins, I don't know. I think that's an interesting matchup.
Yeah.
I don't know about which one I would pick, honestly. They're very different teams, but I don't know which
But
one I would
I
pick.
think Boston's definitely declining in terms of their star power. Like Brad Marchand's not looked the same. And it's
Right.
to be expected. He's in his mid 30s now. And like not that I mean, he was getting kind of helped out by Bergeron in the past years before his retirement, but like we can't expect it because I think Brad Marchand's like 35 now almost.
He is, yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
So, and that guy was one of the best wingers, if not the best winger in the league for a time, like like a good chunk of time. And whether or not you want to call him the best winger, that's fine, but he was definitely up there. And I think that Boston's talent level is going down. They still have an insane goalie, but I think they're going to have to rely on Swayman to really bail them out. And then the offensive Pasternak to really go off and have a good season. Like I'm not expecting because even the year that they had the crazy season where they broke the record for, they broke the point record or the win record, one of the two.
Yep.
It was
it
was a surprise, and
yeah.
Boston is playing Montreal tonight, so that's going to be a fun one.
Yeah, that'll be a fun one. There's a lot of fun games on tonight. Actually, we were looking
Leafs
at it
New
earlier.
Jersey as well. Like that's going to be insane.
there was one that we mentioned, Ottawa, Florida. I'm very curious to see this year's Ottawa Senators against Florida.
Well, especially against Florida, like they could get eaten
Yeah.
alive because Florida's just that good.
And I feel like they're going to beat the crap out of each other. I
Yes.
feel like that's what Ottawa
Yes.
wants to be, and we'll see how it goes.
How many penalty minutes do you think Sam Bennett and Brady Tkachuk are going to have tonight?
Quite a lot. A pile. Or the Tkachuk brothers.
More than 5.
Yeah. I want to stay on the fun train, though.
Go for it.
Since we're glazing the Montreal Canadiens a little bit tonight, or today, I should say. It's the afternoon. The Utah Hockey Club, man. You want to talk fun?
Awesome.
Not only was the environment awesome, I loved watching that game. That was so much fun, and like the environment seemed so cool, and the mascot named Bear is like if the Utah Hockey Club stuck with their current branding and everything, I would not be mad. Like
really?
Just as well, but like the thing is how bland it is, or how it's so simple and dumb that it's good to me. Like the mascot that is a bear named Bear, and the team that is a hockey club just named the hockey club. Like they wear like I thought their jerseys looked really cool. I thought they looked cool out there playing the Blackhawks. Like I think it's kind of neat, and I had so much fun watching them play. You know, I do think Chicago over the big sample of the season will be better than a 5-2 loss to Utah. I think they looked okay. Connor Bedard, I think, has taken a step, but I think he's still finding that balance of like, what can he contribute and what does he need to defer to other people on and all those things. And I mean, he also doesn't still have quite the supporting cast that like a playoff bound team has, but I don't know.
It's not that bad anymore.
No, it's not as bad. They have a pretty decent looking group, especially up front.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, I still feel like the Utah Hockey Club looks like a lot of fun. And was it Luke Gadzik last night on the Oilers broadcast saying that he thinks they'll make the playoffs? And
yes, it was him saying that.
Hey, I mean,
I don't hate the take.
I don't hate it either. Like, they're a fun looking team. They've got some young guys that are cooking. Logan Cooley looks great.
I was about to say, you know who looked awesome in that game? Maybe better than Yuri Slafkovsky. Logan Cooley. We can't glaze the Habs too much. Not too much, you know?
Right. No, but Utah is looking like a lot of fun. I mean, their division is looking, what is it?
It's the Central. So you have Nashville, you have Minnesota, you have Dallas, Colorado, you have Winnipeg, Chicago, and St. Louis.
Yeah, like, I think they could compete in that group. Like, I really do. I think it'll be tough, but I think it's possible.
I think the West is way more murky this year. But I think the Central is the most murky of all the divisions in terms of who's getting in. Like, I think definitely Dallas, Colorado, they're going to make it. I think Nashville should be good, but we'll see.
Right.
There is a possibility that team doesn't necessarily work out, but I think they were pretty decent last year, making the playoffs, and they've just added to that group. Yes, it's an older group, and it's not like... Because I think there was kind of this notion that Nashville might, like, rebuild at some point. But, like, they've retooled in a way that I like for now. They're kind of delaying the full tear it down. But I think it's in a way where they can be competitive. I don't think they're real contenders, but I think they're really good.
Yeah. And I'm really happy about it. I mean, I wish it could have happened in Arizona, but I don't know. They are building something there, and it, I think, is going to be a lot of fun to watch. I think the fans showed up and seemed like they were having a great time, and they came away with a win, and I felt like they deserved it.
Do you find it funny that their owner's name is Ryan Smith and he's a Mormon? Like, because Joseph Smith is like the prophet, right, of Mormonism.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
And then
the OG.
Yes. So I don't know why. I just can't get that relationship, like that connection out of my head, that he has the same last name as like their big prophet in Mormonism.
Right. Well, I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah,
They
well,
have an
Smith's a common
advertisement on
last name.
Yeah, they had ads on the ice for Zion's Bank, and anyone who knows anything about Mormons, that's right up their alley, you know. Zion is what they're trying to build, you know. But anyway, kudos to the Utah Hockey Club on a big win to start their history in Utah, which I hope is long and fruitful.
Yes, may Logan Cooley score many points.
Yes. Do we want to talk about the teams that collapsed?
Yes.
Seattle, Vancouver, I believe, are the two.
Why don't we start? Let me pose this. All right.
Yep.
Are the Vancouver Canucks of old back? Are we back to that? And yes, it's one game. I'm just being an ass. Okay, I don't actually mean this. I think Vancouver's still a good team, but clearly Calgary figured out Arthur Seelovs. All right, this wasn't gonna last forever.
Yeah, Seelovs was always like he had a bit of a run there in the playoffs, and I feel like everybody hitched their wagon then. But if you look at his history over multiple seasons, he's been okay, right? As outside of the NHL even. And so it's like, okay, like him giving up a lot of goals on night one, it's like, I don't know, you know, like that's kind of why you need Demko. Like it's kind of why Demko was so important to them last year. But I like you said, I don't think they're a bad team at all.
I think they're good.
I think they're a pretty good team. But it's the same thing as last year. Like they were riding a bender, an expected goals bender last year, and that does not last forever. And even year over year, like you can tell, like teams regress. Like over the long term, things don't last forever. And then again, they did score 4 goals in the first period. They filled in the Calgary Flames. But to me, I look at the Calgary Flames and I'm going, I feel like this is a team that you should be beating. They're an okay team, I would say.
They're a bad team. Not even okay. They're bad.
Like
they're not that
Romanov
good.
is listed on their top pair. Rasmus Anderson's in there.
Like they have solid players throughout the lineup, but it's like this is a remnant of a good team.
Right. And they are not, I don't think they're trying to be competitive this year.
No, they're playing Sam Honzik.
Yeah, I shouldn't say that they're not trying to be competitive because that implies they're not trying. Well, but in terms of a structure of the roster,
they know they're not competing for a cup.
Yeah, like they've got some guys, but it's not a playoff team. And Vancouver, yeah, I mean, like they were a little porous last night, but yeah, I mean the goaltending wasn't phenomenal. It's not like they were getting blasted with shots, you know, the shot attempt.
It all happened so fast too.
And it happened really fast. Yeah, it all happened really, really fast. So I don't know. I'm willing to give it some time, obviously, more than one game, but
hey, and Aturatu scored, or got a point.
He had an assist. Yeah.
Yes.
So that's a plus. I mean, that was a fun line though. Mm-hmm. Garland, Höglander, and Ratu. That was fun.
I don't know that it'll stick though, because Dakota Joshua's out.
Yeah,
and
probably not.
They like having Joshua and Garland together, but if it works,
right.
Hey,
well, they'll fix it anyway.
Yeah, they'll just send Aturatu into the sun.
Yeah, exactly.
As in to the AHL.
Yeah, pretty much. But he scored a point.
Yeah, and he's a solid player.
Yeah, he looks solid. Yeah. But anyway, Seattle. Do we want to touch on Seattle before moving on?
That was brutal.
That was pretty brutal, eh? And again, you want to talk about it happening fast? It happened fast.
Yeah, they had a lead. They had a 2-goal lead. And I'm like, okay, good. My take on the St. Louis Blues being maybe the worst team in the Central could be realized. And then they scored 3 goals really quickly. I'm like, oh.
Within 2 minutes. Yeah.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Chandler Stevenson looked really good in that game. Like, I was really impressed with him.
He's a good player.
Yes.
Yeah, he's a good one.
Yes, man. Matt, you know what? I wish that, or not I wish, but I think it would have been better for Boston to maybe look at a guy like Chandler Stevenson over in Elias Lindholm even. Because I feel like Lindholm, like I like Elias Lindholm, but I do think he gets kind of overrated because of the crazy season he had between Matthew Tkachuk and Johnny Gaudreau. And like, what, he had almost, was he close to 100 points that year? I think he might have been, but it was just... He
had 82 points in 82 games.
Okay. but like it's because he was playing with uber talented players.
Yeah.
And
Magic Tkachuk helps. Johnny Gaudreau helps.
and who is he going to play between on Boston who was uber talented like that? Like David Pastrnak, yes, but Brad Marchand's not like that anymore.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I could suggest a certain player for Boston to play, but he's not as talented as the guys I was talking about
yeah.
previously. So,
Yeah.
and I feel like Chandler Stevenson is more of an offensive threat than Elias Lindholm is, just generally.
Yeah, I mean, I think I've always liked Stevenson's defensive game as well.
Mhm.
Like that's kind of where his career started. But I will agree, yeah, like with Seattle, I think he fits that group perfectly. Like again, it's just that they have a bunch of good players. Like a bunch of them.
Yep.
And they might have paid a lot of money to get him. I think $6+ million is pretty expensive on a long-term deal for a 30-year-old. But, he fits the mold. I thought Shane Wright looked pretty good.
Yep.
He had some pretty good moments there that, but I mean, and also, yeah, I don't know if I would consider what Seattle did a collapse. They scored 2 goals in 2.5 minutes. So St. Louis, you could argue, collapsed at the beginning of the second period, and then Seattle collapsed. Like it's,
Yeah.
day one things, it's day one, or sort of day one for most teams. And again, like I usually reserve my judgment of a team until about 20 games into the season, 25 minutes.
Well,
and
you are a better man than me because I like to start going, I was right after game one because I get excited.
I can do that too. If it makes me look smart, it's true. And if it doesn't, it's not true.
Yes, that'll go on a shirt at some point, I think.
Also, yes, shout out to Jessica Campbell, first woman assistant coach in the National Hockey League for the Seattle Kraken. That was pretty cool. Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, shout out. Anyway, so I unless you wanted to talk more about what's going on in the NHL so far, we can move on to some of the guys that I've taken a look at over the last week.
Yeah,
I think we pretty much covered it all, right? You think?
Oh, actually, we can talk quickly about the Rangers and Penguins.
Oh yeah, someone commented right off the top. What was it? Yeah, huge Scouching win. Victor Mancini making his NHL debut. Yeah, he played, I think, 17 minutes last night or something like that. So good for him.
And there were
Playing
no goals conceded.
Zach Jones also looking pretty good in the Rangers uniform this season. So hopefully that's a trend that continues because I've always loved Zach Jones. But what did you want to bring up about the Rangers game?
Pittsburgh's bad. They're just plain bad. And
yeah, it wasn't great.
It's sad. I know everybody wants to see the downfall of these dynasties. Why? It just means we're all getting older and closer to dying. Like, why would you root for this? But in all seriousness, it's just like Evgeny Malkin is not nearly as good as he once was. I don't think Chris Letang is nearly as good as he once was. Erik Karlsson was always a flawed player, and he's older now. And with players that used to be really good but are now showing their flaws quite strongly as well. It's just Sidney Crosby, the ageless wonder, trying his absolute best to keep this team afloat.
Yes.
And unfortunately, I don't think he could do it.
It is tough. I mean, hey, I remember when we talked about this when Kyle Dubas got the job in Pittsburgh, but this is what he signed up for, man. Like it's probably one of the toughest jobs in hockey is like managing a team that's on a downslope. Running a team that has Hall of Fame players on it that are reaching the end of their careers, that have had huge amounts of success in the past. And you can't, this happens with every team that is dominant for years on end. Every single team does this, but they get to a point where you have these Hall of Fame super high-end players that they have all the reason in the world to go to you and be like, give me an 8-year contract. It happened in San Jose. Now it happened in Chicago. Now it's happening in Pittsburgh, and they deserve it. But you can't let a guy like, say, Chris Letang walk to free agency, right? Just from the fans' perspective. And so as a
Tampa
manager,
did it. Tampa did it with Stamkos.
Tampa did it,
and
yes.
I commend them because I think it was the right call.
Yep.
They brought in Jake Gensel, And I
Yep.
think Tampa is going to look much better this year. I think Tampa is a really good team because they said, no, we'll move on from Stamkos, even though he helped win us the cup. We're gonna still try and go for it and bring in somebody younger who can do what he does.
Yeah, I mean, fair enough. It's just this is what makes Kyle Dubas's job so hard in Pittsburgh, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
do you just rip it all to pieces and tank the team, and in doing so get rid of the Hall of Fame talent that won you Stanley Cups? Probably not, realistically.
I mean,
But if
it
you
depends.
don't, but if you don't, you end up in this type of situation where now it's just like you've got the guys that are trying to keep the team afloat, but it is tough. It is tough. That was a tough game against New York for Pittsburgh, I thought. That was a tough one, and I feel like the Rangers they're just a class above.
They're a good team.
They're
Like
a good team.
I called them big time frauds last year, but I think it was mainly because I felt they were overperforming. I think this year they have a chance to be way better, even though they won the President's Trophy. Like I think because not the best team doesn't always win, even in the regular season, right?
Yeah.
Like I think Shesterkin's just a monster, and I felt throughout the last little while that they weren't necessarily playing the best way to win, and I think it showed when they played Florida, because I just think that's the style of play you need to get to in order to win now. Like you need to be able to be fast and just very aggressive and dominant in terms of like keeping the puck in the offensive zone and putting a ton of pressure on teams. Where I felt the Rangers were more a team that were excellent on special teams and had excellent goaltending. But
Yeah.
I think like I like their group better this year. They were trying to move on from Trouba, but he vetoed that. So big sad. It would have been even funnier if Detroit had actually gone through with that deal, because that's who was trying to get him.
Yep.
Which
Yep.
makes me question Steve Yzerman even further. But I think the Rangers are going to be a really good team this year. I think it's going to be them and the Devils really competing for that one spot in the Metro.
Yeah, I think so too.
And for Pittsburgh,
But
I don't know, man. Like, I think you just have to divorce yourself from the idea to pay these guys at the end of their career. Like, yes, they have done a lot for you, but it doesn't matter if if you
tough.
can't. But if you can't, like, I don't know. I have this mindset where I want to win constantly. Will knows this. I play them in board games all the time, and like I win a lot of them because I am so aggressively pursuing victory. And I feel like you have to just cut it loose. Yes, you've done great things, but you're not going to be able to continue to do that, and you have to make hard decisions and be like, no, sorry, Evgeny, we can't pay you this money because you're not worth it anymore.
Yep. I mean, I agree. It's just I feel like it's a lot easier said than done.
It is.
And
It absolutely is.
Dubas making the trade for Erik Karlsson pretty much right away, I think put his stick in the mud and said, "This is what I'm doing, and we'll see how it goes." But
I think we were largely positive on that move. Like we were
sure,
but in retrospect, it hasn't worked. And
not particularly.
And I think it has a lot to do with Erik Karlsson needing to be like when Erik Karlsson succeeded the most, he was everything on the teams he was on.
Right.
The offense ran through him.
Yep.
And I feel like that hurt Pittsburgh last year, because why would you run the offense solely through Erik Karlsson when you have one of the greatest players of all time?
Yeah. Yeah.
And Erik Karlsson commands all this attention.
Yeah.
Like, I had to edit the best of Erik Karlsson highlight pack for when he won his or like the highlight video for Sportsnet's YouTube channel when he won the Norris Trophy. That guy didn't play defense. Like, he was just jumping.
Yeah.
I watched all the goals. Yeah. I watched all the goals, all the assists, like all the points he had that year, because I had to put together the best plays. And I swear, he was playing forward on all of those shifts. It was ridiculous.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That sounds like Erik Karlsson in San Jose that year, right? Like that's that.
And
but
he's a brutal defender.
Yeah.
Like he's honestly a brutal defender in terms of like defense. I say it all the time, but that's like he's problematic that way. And so
Right.
you have these aging group of players, and Sidney Crosby's the only one giving you anything worthwhile. Of course you're going to be bad.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, I don't know, man. Tough start for their season. Tough start for a few teams this season. Colorado, I mean, I should say Alexander Georgiev had a bad night. Vegas looked great. They scored 7 goals before an empty netter. Not bad.
There was some really brutal goaltending performances and some really great goaltending performances.
Yeah. Yes,
Doesn't
correct.
feel like there's been anything in between.
Yeah. Well, on that note, that's I think a good point to pivot a little bit and get into the thing that everybody loves on this channel, which is talking about prospects in October. As a brief note, before I get into some of these individual ones, for the channel itself, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to start putting out some stuff that is not live streams, but video of breaking down some tape on guys and all that fun stuff. So you can stay tuned for that. But for the time being, let's chat about some guys that I took a look at since last Thursday that are worth bringing up for one reason or another.
Mm-hmm.
The number one guy here is Michael Misa. So I finally got a chance to sit down and watch Michael Misa play hockey and get some data on him. And he's the Michael Misa I've always remembered, honestly, which is not a bad thing. I do really, really like Michael Misa's game. I think he brings a really, really remarkable mind for the game. He put up some really great data, both playmaking wise and shot wise, just getting chances and chances and chances. I see a guy who, I don't know if he's a top tier NHL player, but I do believe that he'll be a very good one, very smart, very capable puck manager, really smart off the puck, finds routes, finds space, settles pucks easily. He scored a beautiful goal in the game that I tracked. I mean, he didn't transport the puck himself, but the shot itself, he just tucked it under the bar, and it was beautiful and nice and quick and all the stuff you want to see out of a young player. So yeah, Michael Misa looked really, really good in the game that I did today or the other day. He on my board. I mean, I'm happy with where he is right now. He's at 5, I want to say.
So you moved him down?
Did I?
Because I think you had him at 4 the last time we were.
Yeah, I feel like I should have him higher than where I have him. I think I have him at 6. Yeah, 6.
Oh, okay. So he's moved down 2 slots.
So only because, I mean, cautiously for now, I have Cullen Potter higher than him, but I will be doing a game of Cullen Potter when he plays after this weekend, probably for Arizona State University. Anton Frundell is up there too, and I see him and Misa is quite similar in a way. So I'll take a look at Frundell once he's had a few more games to get his legs under him, because he literally just started playing this season. But like I said on Monday, like this range for me, I've kind of played around with my tiers a little bit right now. And from 2 to 9 is all a group. It's a mushy group. To me, I like Hagens above all of them. I did Porter Martone today, which we can talk about later. But Misa was a very interesting player, a very interesting game. I could see why he's very valued, and I'll be very curious to see what happens with him. But the ones that I haven't had a good look at yet that have been playing, that I have ahead of him, but I could easily put them behind him, are Frundell and Potter. We also did a game of Jackson Smith, talking about the mushy group after number 1. I love Jackson Smith, man. I really, really do. He's just such a fun hockey player, and the way that I've been talking about him based on what I saw last year and at the Holinka, it's true. There are some moments with Smith where you're going, I don't know what that's all about. But in the game I did with Tri-City, I thought that there was a lot less of that. I feel like it's kind of, for AJ's your purposes, it's kind of like the William Nylander thing, where the guy wants the puck so much and he plays so much with the puck and he tries so many high-end things that you really notice when it doesn't go his way and it sticks out, right? Because when Jackson Smith is cooking, especially for a guy who's 6'3", I think, or 6'4", and the way that he skates around the ice, like, to me, it's just, I want to work with him. I want to go, let's figure out a way to move forward with you and get you to be the best player you can be, because there's something there, man. I loved him. I loved the game I watched of him. And the data that came out, I will say some of it was not ideal, like the transition data, offensively especially. Defensively was very good. Offensively was questionable. But this is why you can't really trust data. It's because a lot of the times on his breakout passes, they were the perfect idea, right? Open man, times things well. There's some deception on some exits at times. And they just, the guy receiving the pass, it would just, hands of stone. And the puck would just bounce off their stick and go straight to an opponent, or just can't
the Ryan
settle
Reeves problem.
Right. So, and that's Tri-City though, right? Like Tri-City just is a grinding team that doesn't really play with the puck a whole lot. And Jackson Smith is the guy that always has the puck when he's on the ice, it seems. And when he has the puck, he's making stuff happen. And Jackson Smith was a ton of fun. And so I will back him. He's at 9 on my list now, and I feel like that's around the range where he's going to stay. Guys like Schaefer and Hensler in that range with Mertka. I obviously Schaefer and Hensler haven't played a game yet, so I'm not going to comment on that, but I could easily see him being in the back half of the top 10 at the end of the year. The other one I wanted to talk about, while we're talking about defensemen, I guess we can talk about Simon Wang, who is, I think in Elite Prospects, he's listed as Haoxi Wang, Haoxi or something. But people have been talking about this guy this season. I saw Brock Otten put a couple of tweets out about him. Scott Wheeler said he was in King City, a suburb of Toronto. He was in King City to watch him play. Okay, and he's a 6'6" defenseman playing in the OJHL. So, and I watched a bit of him a month ago, or not a month ago, a couple of weeks ago, because he popped up in my model as a guy scoring a bunch of points as a defenseman, and the age triggered a thing in my model that I have where, it's worth taking a look at this guy, even in the OJHL. And for a 6'6" defenseman, there's some really creative stuff in there, a really quick wrist shot as well. But he is he's a raw player's raw player. He is a long way away from being a ways away, I think. Decision-making was questionable. He had some interesting defensive moments. Like, you can see signs of something there, but like, it's the OJHL. And I mean, with these changes to the NCAA and CHL, I would not be surprised. I would not be surprised if he is a guy. I lost my train of thought. I would not be surprised if he's a guy who I can't remember. I don't remember what I was about to say.
Ooh.
But anyway, I did see him. He played a lot of minutes. You see the potential, but it's all right. The OJHL itself, with the CHL and the NCAA stuff coming, I don't even know how long the OJHL is going to exist in its permanent, in its current form, because the best OJHL players who want to go to college probably go to the BCHL now, and even then, like, you're not going to need to go to the OJHL anymore, and the OJHL's level of play is bad. It is bad. It was bad. And so for him, like, he stood out for sure, both physically and for a guy who can skate like that. I did mark on my calendar a game where he's coming to my town in December. So I'll go to that game because I want to see him, but it's really tough. Like, if you have the OJHL is tough, and he was a guy I was expecting him to be dominant because of what I saw in flashes, and maybe he could get there, but that's a ways away for me. But he was a lot of fun. I mean, if he's a guy that goes in the second round or something, I wouldn't do it. But I think he's a guy that's worth a swing at some point in the draft, and who knows where he'll be in 6 months. Speaking of defensemen that might be good swings, I wanted to talk a little bit about Andrei Zavadsky, who's a guy who I don't think a whole lot of people are talking about at all, and I don't blame you, because he is in and out of the lineup with Omsk's junior team. He's number 36 if you wanted to go and look on their YouTube channel, or the league's YouTube channel, and find some video. He's only played, I think, 6 games this year, but I did take data from one of them, and he looks awesome. A little small. Yeah, a little small in terms of weight. I don't think he's physically that small. I think he's 5'11", and super dynamic and creative, shifty guy. Kind of reminds me of like a B-list Mikhail Gulyayev type guy. Same program. similar profiles, really, really, really mobile, pretty speedy, but not nearly as speedy as a guy like Gulyayev was. But I was a huge fan. I was going in as a curiosity on him. I just sort of saw him in the background of watching that team in preseason, and I believe he played one game last year, and I was watching someone else, and he stuck out in that game as well. But he's a guy that I loved. I liked him a lot in the game I tracked. He put up really good data for a defenseman. Defensively, there were issues. He's losing battles and all those things, but there's a lot to like. And so he's a guy that I want to circle back on later in the year. And Gavin Cornforth was the last one I wanted to bring up before we get to questions today. A guy who I just adored. I saw him last year here and there with Dubuque, and thought he was really talented there. He's an 06, so he's a little older for this draft class, but really, really, really interesting player. Aggressive and super smart defensive player. Like, I feel like he's got really good defensive tools, really, really good defensive tools, but still just hasn't gotten the refinement down to be a like dominant offensive player in the USHL. But he just brings a lot of good traits and good habits where I'm sort of sitting there going, I would love to see what this guy looks like after 2, 3, 4 years in college, because he's a lot of fun and a lot of really good habits, a lot of really competitive moments, really good. He got an assist in the game I tracked from a forecheck, causing a turnover, threw it out in front clean to a guy who was waiting for it. So really, really refined player. I don't know if there's like huge upside there, but I have him ranked in my second round right now. This class as a whole has been a little bit weird and iffy, but Cornforth is a guy that I'm very curious about. But yeah, Smith and Misa I loved. Wang and Zavadsky are very interesting. And Cornforth I really, really liked. And all of those guys are worth checking out at some point, if you have the means and the ability. On that note, I guess we can switch over to questions, unless you want to get on a pedestal and preach the gospel according to AJ.
Oh, you're going to let me preach my gospel?
I don't know if you have anything to add before we get to questions, before we do our little ad read.
I'll save it for the end.
Okay, he's going to save it for the end. Okie dokie. Okay, well, anyway, before we get to questions, obviously, we'll do our little bit of our little ad read. So we're brought to you by Fanatics. You can use our affiliate link below, or you can scan the QR code in the window to provide a kickback on anything you buy in the store. Puck Preps Hockey also supports us, and you can go there to get all of your NCAA and CHL prospect needs, especially as the CHL and NCAA become closer. It's going to become more and more important over there, so check that out. Fractal Hockey Consulting also supports us, which is my business for hand-tracked targeted player analysis and recruitment packages for the NCAA Europe and beyond, with plenty of solutions for any of your needs, whether you're a team, a parent, a player, whatever. We have something for you. And of course, Scouching.ca, where a subscription will get you access to a Discord server, tons of exclusive prospect data in the NHL, insights into the data that I track, as well as subscriber-only written content and plenty of other cool stuff to find out there, as well as Scouchware.com to get all of our merch. And we have a Buy Me a Coffee link in the description if you just want to send us a couple bucks.
Buy our merch.
Or 10 grand. Yeah, or that. Yeah, so buy whatever. Buy everything. Just give us all of your money. That's
Please.
It. That's really all of that.
Bankrupt
Literally
yourself.
Yeah, bankrupt yourself
for
so
the
that
betterment
we can go
of
to Cabo.
us.
Yeah, so we can buy real estate and gentrify somewhere that has less money than us.
And maybe we'll let you live there.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, because we are vicious, vicious capitalists. Anywho,
I'm like the Monopoly man.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's my dream. I want to be the Monopoly guy. If I was a billionaire, I'd go out of my way to get like plastic surgery to look like the Monopoly guy.
And Will would get facial hair growth serum to give himself a better mustache to match.
No, I do the hair plugs like Elon Musk. Like Elon Musk's got hair plugs. I'm gonna do that, but here, and just have the Philip Forsberg mustache and shave my head and a monocle. There you go, Monopoly man. Easy.
Please,
yeah.
Please let Will live out his dream.
I always wondered what the point of a monocle was, right? Because
to look rich,
right? But you wear it all the time, or no? I guess not.
It's something stupid and unnecessary that only a person with a stupid amount of money would have the time for. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, because you need glasses for both of your eyes usually. And if you have a glass for one eye, are you squinting through it with one eye and reading? Like, is it a magnifying glass? Like, what's the point? I don't understand.
It's just
But I'm not rich enough to know.
Yeah, that's what
I'm not wealthy enough to know.
again, I think it's just an unnecessary, what's a good way to put it? Like, it's not
Antiquated accessory.
Yeah, accessory. Yes. That only people with too much money would have to worry about.
Right.
And not
Exactly.
not today's too much money, because I've not seen anybody wear one of those.
Right. I don't know if I've ever seen someone wearing a monocle in my life. I don't think I ever have. Anyway.
But yes, the point of the story is make us as rich as the Monopoly Man. Please and thank you.
The point of the story is let's get to some questions and see where this goes. Do you agree with elite prospects that Radim Murtka's skating is a point of weakness long term? So again, with stuff like this, it's important to think about what that means. Like, what are you saying? Because for me, there are certain areas of Murtka skating wise that are very, very high end, right? But there are areas of Murtka's game that are not in the skating area of the game, right? Like, if he's carrying the puck up the ice, I think the skill level and the ability to generate speed are not where it needs to be to play his style at higher levels. That's my view of it. But especially off the puck and defensively, the way he gets around the ice, his lateral mobility, his ability to pivot, his ability to track guys wide, push guys and pressure them to the lower danger areas of the ice is really high end, I think. And I think that's what I picked up on in the game I did. Again, I haven't seen any Czech Pro League tape, but I did watch him in the Champions League, and he did not look out of place there at all. It's just he has really good fine details in skating wise, but it's to me the flashy stuff that isn't there yet, right? Like, he's not a Sam Dickinson where he's going to go end to end and dangle everybody and do whatever. He might try, but long term, I don't think that's a great idea unless it really comes a bit of a ways. But there are a lot of areas in his game where I'm going, okay, that's really high end, especially for a big, lanky guy. And I respect the mentality of trying to cook and put stuff together. It's just, if that's what you want to do and that's what your style of play is going to be, then we should work on that and develop it further. But it's not bad, I don't think. I think at the end of the day, Murtka's a great defensive player. He's got a really good mind for the game as well. I think he's a first-round pick, mid-first round for me right now. And yeah, I've come a long way on him since seeing him at the Holinka, because I think I was weighing too much on that, what I saw when he had the puck and was trying to carry it and everything. I'm going, okay, I see what you're getting at here, but I'm not so sure this is totally up your alley right now, but it could be one day. Rayan is already freaking out here, AJ. Is Edmonton's season over? Question mark. Is it Jover? Yes.
Sure.
That's it. It's over.
Connor McDavid's leaving. He's gonna sign
Yep.
He's gonna sign league min with the Leafs and carry
Draisaitl made a boo-boo. Yep. They're screwed. It's over.
Rayan is the person who decided to make the thumbnail and put Leon Draisaitl in black and white with a tear. So
yes.
It wasn't my idea to do that. Rayan just took it upon himself to send me that.
It was a tough night, though. I will not lie. It was a tough night if you're an Oilers fan last night, because they had some pretty darn good chances and none of them went in, and Winnipeg had a lot go in. So
it's funny because the three Canadian teams I would have picked to win all of those matches lost.
Yes. Hey, it's hard to play in Canada. It's a lot of pressure to play up here,
But
who knows?
It doesn't make me look smart, so I don't agree with it.
Right, that's true. Right. Sorry, forgot about the commandment. One of the commandments of this channel.
Yes, it is the first commandment. If it makes me look smart,
it makes me look smart. It's true.
I agree with it.
If it makes me look dumb, it's false. Yeah, exactly. How about those scores? Yeah, I mean, I love when hockey's like this, when there's a bunch of games that have 6 goals for a team and 10 goals in the night. Vegas and Colorado, there were 12 goals, and there were some bangers in that one.
Mikko
and then
Rantanen somehow had a hat trick and was a -1, so that's awesome.
Ivan Barbashev had 4 points, something like
yeah.
that.
Ivan Barbashev and Jack Eichel had 4 points.
Yeah. Is Ivan Barbashev becoming one of the more underrated players in the league? Because some of the plays he made last night were like, he's not the quickest guy in the world. He's not the flashiest guy in the world, but holy smokes. Like, I wanted to, what was it? The second goal of the night for them? Yeah. The Hannafin assist. Like, if you watch that goal, like, it's such a subtle thing. And I'm sure he intended to do this, but like, just a subtle push away from the net while the defenders were tracking towards the net. He might drift 3 feet maybe from where he was.
All the space,
and that's all he needed. And Hannafin spotted him, and there was a wide open lane right to him, right? It's like those are the little things that if you want to score goals in the NHL, you got to do. And if you're not the best shooter in the world, you can get away doing stuff like that. Barbashev sprung, was it Eichel, I think, on an entry? Was that on the third goal?
There are so many goals that it's hard to keep track of.
Yeah, like Barbashev was on the rush, and he had a defenseman tracking him, cutting him down, and all he did was just a little skill move to the outside and wrapped the puck around the guy and sprung Eichel in the offensive zone, and it led to a goal. Right? It's like these little tiny little things that I always look for. Right? Guys who don't just go, okay, there's a guy coming for me, so I'm going to chip it through him and try to chase after it. You can do that, but it's nice to see guys go, no, like I have an option to keep the puck and give it to someone who I see, and I'm going to find a creative way to get it there, right? Whether it's a spin pass or off the boards or, you know, a little chip pass to the guy, not just sort of a chip and chase play. You love to see stuff like that because anytime any player can keep possession of the puck, it's a plus for me. So yeah, just wanted to shout out Ivan Barbashev.
Yeah, he was really good.
That
Sorry,
triggered that. Well, I was going to say also, and Jack Eichel is amazing.
Yes, so he really is. I will say though, still the most underappreciated player in the NHL, Pavel Buchnevich. That is my go-to guy.
That guy is sick.
He is sick, and nobody talks about him.
Not anymore.
Well, he's nearly a point per game play. I think he actually is a point per game player over the past couple of years. Right. And you don't think of Pavel Buchnevich that way. I'm just going to make sure that that's correct, but I know he's close to it, if not quite there.
He's pretty close, if not. Yeah. Yeah.
He's really
Very
good.
Close. Yeah. Was Harrison Brunicky solo carrying the Penguins in the preseason?
Maybe. Him and Rucker McGroarty.
Yeah, him and Rucker McGroarty. Does Lambert get a call up soon? I can't answer that.
I hope
I don't know. I mean, Winnipeg scored 6 goals without him, so I don't think they see a reason to change the lineup anytime soon. But I mean, I don't know. I feel like if there's an injury, he gets called up, right? Like I feel like that's just he's right there. It's just they have a lot of good players up front, and he's the odd guy out. And I guess from their perspective, they see him being a first line guy in the AHL playing a ton of minutes better than him being a third line, second line guy and playing less minutes in the NHL. But we'll see how it goes. I feel like he doesn't spend the entire season in the AHL, though. I feel like at some point he'll work his way into the lineup. I don't know. He just looked really, really good in the preseason, and I feel like it's almost time. But that's just me.
He should be in the NHL. He should be.
He
should be. I think he really should be. Like, what are you going to do? Play Vlad Nemesnikov as your 2C all year?
Maybe.
Why? I'm just going to make sure that that's still true, but like that's what it was projected as. So,
yeah, they had 6 goals last night. He had 0 points.
Nemesnikov?
Yeah.
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 No surprise.
So it's over for him. That's it. 1 game, you're done.
Absolutely. Get him out of there. Yeah, he was playing. Like,
correct.
What sounds better? Cole Perfetti, Vlad Nemesnikov, and Nikolai Ehlers, or Cole Perfetti, Brad Lambert, and Nikolai Ehlers? I think it's a pretty easy choice.
And also, no disrespect to Vlad Nemesnikov. Pretty solid player. Not a second-line center, I don't think.
No.
No.
Shouldn't have gone ahead of Kucherov, but he did. Tampa took Vlad Nemesnikov ahead of Nikita Kucherov. He was their first pick in that draft class.
That was Nikita Kucherov playing with Mikhail Grigorenko and everybody thinking that those guys were 30 years old. I remember those days. It's like, oh, is Mikhail Grigorenko really 17 or is he 30 with a fake passport to look better? I don't know. I remember that was a thing, and that's hilarious.
Awesome.
And I remember at the time, I think with Kucherov, because I remember asking around about him, and people were saying that he had no interest in playing in North America at the time when he was 17, I think. So I think that's why he went later in the draft. And I think Tampa just went, screw it. Let's see what happens. And they took him. I think they don't regret that. And you know what? Hey, that's my strategy. They stole my strategy. It's like, well, they didn't steal it, but they did it before I came along. Of like,
You
well,
stole their
okay,
strategy, if anything.
you say you don't want to come over, but maybe if we show you what it's like living in Florida, maybe not this past week, but generally what it's like living in Florida, maybe you'll change your mind and move away from Russia and live in Florida for a while and play some hockey, because it's not so bad. And I feel like now he's going to be an NHL Hall of Famer, and that's not so bad.
Yeah,
you know,
Florida's awesome. And
hard to get in the Hockey Hall of Fame if you never play in the NHL.
And my heart goes out to everybody dealing with the hurricane as well.
That too. It looked like it wasn't very much fun.
No.
It looked like it sucked. Yeah. Really not fun. Thoughts on Olin Zellweger getting left off the Ducks roster? Jackson Lacombe on power play 1? Oh, I didn't know that.
Well, that's trash.
Yeah, that's no good.
Anaheim sucks and we hate them. That is our answer.
I'm going to double check that that's true. Not that I doubt this individual, but that sucks. Yeah, their defense groups are Fowler, Tristan Luneau, Jackson Lacombe, Radko Gudas, Pavel Minchikov, and
Radko Gudas.
Brian Dumoulin. Yeah, Captain Gudas. Captain Radko.
That's just mystifying to me. Like, I don't know, man.
I don't know. I mean, look, but again, to me, it's like, think about the identity that these teams are trying to be.
Bad? Is that what you want your identity to be?
Anaheim's identity, it's like they want to get rid of a Trevor Zegras. They spent a lot of money on Alex Killorn. You know, they brought in Brett Leason. It's, Brock McGinn. It's like they want to be a tough team. And Olin Zellweger is not that. He isn't. And so I feel like when teams get that way, they look at a guy like Jackson Lacombe, who played a full season, and Pavel Minchikov. And this was the problem, too, with Anaheim. Whoa. When they switched gears a little bit. I looked at who they've been drafting, and I'm going, they have a lot of really dynamic, smart, capable offensive defensemen, but a lot of NHL teams don't want to play too many of those guys. Whether it's right or wrong, they generally don't. And it's I know this happens, but they look at their roster and go, we have 2 of these guys. We don't need 3. So no matter how good Olin Zellweger is, there's no job for him on the team, which fair enough, I guess. But for me, I look at that and I go, yeah, but like, I get why you have a Brian Dumoulin on the roster over an Olin Zellweger, but I get the feeling that when you put both of those guys on the ice, you probably get more overall positive impact, or at least it's worth trying Olin Zellweger than Brian Dumoulin, who's a fine player, but you have a top end defenseman prospect who's just not the biggest guy in the world. I don't know. It might be worth a go, but who am I to judge?
You know what I've also noticed?
What?
Trevor Zegras is on their second power play unit.
Why
is Cutter Gauthier there instead?
Well, I mean, Cutter Gauthier is there because you give him the puck in the faceoff circle and he'll crank it through the net.
But you have Troy Terry there too. Like, and
I don't know, man.
Like, I don't get it. Don't you want somebody like super skilled who has all the time in the world to pull off all the creative stuff that he can do? Like, who do they have on that power play unit of Troy Terry, Mason McTavish, Cutter Gauthier, Leo Carlson, Jackson Lacombe, who's going to do that? No one.
Carlson?
Maybe.
But I mean, Gauthier, but the thing is, like, that's where Gauthier should shine. That's like his game. He does do that. It's just.
But at the expense of Trevor Zegras?
I don't know, man. It seems like they just don't like Trevor Zegras anymore. Like, they just don't. They're done. Like, he's a back burner player now.
He's a sitting duck.
Every single turn I don't know why. I don't know what's up with that. But since he held out his contract and didn't sign, and I believe then he got hurt or some combination of both, it's been a totally different story for him, and we'll see what happens. But yeah, like, I'm not surprised. Like, so yeah, when you see a guy like Olin Zellweger not on the roster, it's like you look at a Tristan Luneau, it's like, well, Luneau brings a more balanced, quote unquote, game than Zellweger does, which I think to some people will go, yeah, let's see where this goes. I don't know. It's not my strategy.
So
but,
apparently
yeah.
Terry took Zegras' spot on the power play because he's a righty.
Okay.
I mean,
I guess.
yeah, I'd still really like to have Trevor Zegras on a top unit. I'd play him over Cutter, me personally.
Well, I mean, we'll see where they are 20 games in. It's first game of the year.
But like, this is Cutter
We'll
Gautier's first season too, right?
It is. Yep. But some people adore him.
I did for when I was the only one who liked him, it seemed, and then like I said, all of a sudden, this guy got consideration in the top 10, and I was going, whoa.
Yeah.
So
yep. He's a good player, but yeah, tricky.
He was playing third line too when you and I liked him before it was cool. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this guy's the greatest.
Yeah. I had him in the middle of my first round, and I was like, yeah, I like this guy. He's a good offensive player. He can score. He can really shoot the puck. But again, it's like...
He's very flashy too.
It's a lot of, and it's a lot of that end of chain of possession play. Like, he, off the puck and moving the puck up the ice, and at the time especially, it just wasn't really there. But once the puck was in the offensive zone, he was lights out, like just ridiculous. So, yeah, like, and for me, in my work, I just don't value that as much because it's really, 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 really hard to get the puck into the offensive zone in the NHL and have control of it. So a young player, especially with a top 5 pick, who at 17 years old had trouble doing those things, was tricky for me. But that's neither here nor there. He's a good player, and we'll see how Anaheim does.
Free Trevor Zegras.
I think we'll have that coming up. Who would you take long term? Seamus Casey or Simon Nemitz? Probably Nemitz, but Casey's not that. I mean, Nemitz, I think, is a better quarterback of the puck than Casey is. Casey's a remarkable passer. He's definitely more skilled. I think Casey's more skilled than Nemitz and more offensively creative. But Nemitz, I think, brings a more traditional, capable defenseman there, I think. Like I go with Nemitz. I had Nemitz higher than I had Casey, different draft classes, but yeah. With the CHL NCAA agreement basically confirmed, how do you think it heavily affects the BCHL and USHL? Well, I actually have been a little bit on the inside of this discussion, a little bit here and there, and there's a lot of uncertainty, especially as far as I know from the USHL, of do you even think they're going to exist? And I think it will. But I think that, like, look, the issue, in a sense, and it always has been the issue, is that there are too many teams in the Canadian Hockey League in the first place, right? Like, even if you took the best BCHL players and the best OJHL players and the best AJHL players, like, I don't think it's going to boost the CHL a tremendous amount because there are 60 teams. Like, there aren't even 60 players in those 3 leagues where I'm going, yeah, if these guys were in the CHL, they'd be elite. Usually guys at those levels go either to the USHL or just go to college by the time they're 8, 19, 20 years old. But I do know that it's a big question mark. I feel as though what might be the case is that the CHL and USHL merge and you have an American conference and a Canadian conference, and the Canadian conference is just much bigger. I don't know exactly the logistics of that. I don't know how the USHL would feel about being absorbed into the CHL. I have no clue how financially certain teams in the CHL would make that work, and the USHL, like in the USHL, most teams are in the Midwest, so the travel's not that bad. It's generally, accessible. But when you have, say, the Youngstown Phantoms and all of a sudden they've got to go to Vancouver, that's a much more expensive and different story. I think that in general, it's going to be a long, drawn out, naturally occurring process of some of it's going to be a mess. So I feel like some teams are going to no longer exist, or leagues themselves. Like, there's no physically possible way that the junior A leagues in Canada stay the way they are if the CHL can now go to the NCAA. There's just no incentive to go to those leagues unless you get cut from an OHL team or a WHL team. There's just no other reason. So by default, that means, okay, ideally, technically, amongst all of Canada, 60 teams, let's say 25 guys, that's 750 players ish. If you're not among the top 750 in Canada, whether you want to go to college or not, where do you go, right? And so you're looking at leagues that are the next 750 players in Canada at the junior level, which the level of play just, it won't be there. And so if they don't get to go to college after that, and guys from the BCHL don't just go to, you're looking at maybe a feeder league for Division 3 and like lower end NCAA programs. So we'll see how long that holds, right? Like, I don't know. The good thing about Canada, though, in that sense, is that small communities in Canada, man, they rally around their hockey teams. Like, these teams in small towns exist and exist perpetually because of the support they get from their community. So I don't know what's going to happen. I have no clue. But I feel like in 40 years, the landscape of how junior hockey at the highest levels work in North America is going to look quite different. I have my own vision of how it should look, but that's kind of like, it's very Paul Atreides like, where it's like, if I can take over the universe, I will eradicate billions of people to get the job done, but I'm going to get the job done. It's like, the way that I see things going, it's not feasible, or the way I would like things to be is not feasible, but I think it would be better. Just, you don't have 60 teams in Canada playing major junior hockey. You have, you boil things down to the top divisions, right? Like, you look at Sweden, there are 15 teams, I think, in the top division of Swedish junior hockey, something like that. Obviously, Sweden is a much smaller country, but there are still a lot of hockey players in Sweden, and a lot of good ones come from Sweden as well. And yeah, anyway, I don't know. It's going to be tough. It's going to be a long process. And yeah, these things will take time. It's going to take time, and it's going to, I think, be very different. I think Berube's system works. I mean, it's worked so far, right? They lost.
It does. No, whatever. They lost, but they look the best they have in a long time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited, and go Leafs, go.
Yeah. Hey, you did the thing before.
Do the thing, Bart.
Do the thing. Say the line. Okay. Is Joshua Ravensburgen a first-round talent goaltender? What is his upside compared to recent first-round goaltenders? So the only recent first-round goaltenders, right? They've been Wallstead and Askarov and Kosa. I'm trying to remember if there's been another one. I don't think so. But I mean, look, with this draft class, I honestly am looking at things and going, where am I starting to get comfortable taking a goalie, especially if they're really, really good? And I think it's possible that, and I, starting last season, I have my goalies ranked separately from skaters and mostly have them in the range in the draft I would start thinking about taking a goaltender, for the record. And so with the goaltenders this year, I'm just pulling it up now. Ravensburgen is in my mid to late first round for goaltending, because past the 20th overall pick this year on my list, there's a lot of interesting players, but no one that really, really interests me more than a really, really good goaltender does. And he's in that range. But the thing too is there's three other ones that I think deserve that kind of range. Ivan Kovic, Harenstam in Sweden, and Pyotr Andrianov. Andrianov is unbelievably good. Like, he's been having a heck of a season with the Red Army team. He's got a .950 save percentage after 7 games, facing 35 shots a game on average. So he's busy. He's, of those 4 goaltenders, the second busiest of all of them, but has by far the highest save percentage. And so he's doing the thing, and he's got a really cool mask. That's a plus for me as well. But I've really, really liked him. The only knock is that he's not very big, but Ravensburgen's the only one who is big. But for me, I do value size in goaltenders. But at the same time, Andrianov, I believe, is 6 feet, and I think that's doable. And I think that you may as well take a chance on him. And also, Team Scouching doesn't have any more goalies. They all graduated. They're all too old. So that's too bad. But Andrianov is a really, really good one. Ravensburgen, though, is a really good one that I think teams will be very interested in. And I feel like first round is not out of the question.
So do all of Team Scouching's goalies suck? Is that what that means?
Well, it's Daniel Vladar, Mikhail Burden, and
Dan Vladar
Dmitry
is
Nikolaev.
fine.
Yeah, you have a goalie there. I think Mikhail Burden has some really good stuff, but he never made it. And Dmitry Nikolaev is still developing in Russia.
So you have a backup goalie, is what you've got.
Yeah, but I mean, the thing is too, it's like you could sign a goaltender.
Yeah,
you know,
that's true.
I would rather if I was running an NHL team, my strategy would probably be sign 3 goaltenders and see who sticks. You know, like get 3 guys who've got a good vibe and have some years under their belt already, and see what happens. You don't have to spend a ton, and if you get above average goaltending, like based on what Team Scouching looks like, if I had a decent above average goaltending tandem, we would win every game 5-3. And I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that. You know, it's like that's the thought. But yeah, Dmitry Nikolaev's in the KHL right now. 932 save percentage with Spartak Moscow, 4-1 record through 8 games. Always liked him. 24 years old. I wouldn't be surprised to see him get an NHL contract at some point. But the year I would have taken him, I think, was 2020. A 947 save percentage with a 976 in the playoffs, and some men's league experience. But that nonetheless, that's neither here nor there.
Your top line would still be gross. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a Kaprizov, Matthews, Marner line.
And that's without free agents.
Yeah. And you started without, you started the year of Marner.
Yes.
That's why William Nylander is not there. Otherwise, he would be probably.
Yeah, either Marner. It would have been either, and I remember I was dabbling with draft work in 2014, and at the time it was Nylander or Ehlers for me. Those are the 2 guys that I loved in the draft. Praying it wasn't Nick Ritchie going to Toronto at the time,
and it worked
even
out.
though that was the one everyone was talking about. Everybody was talking about Nick Ritchie going to Toronto, which is so Toronto. Anyway, enough of that. How are you celebrating the return of Ottawa Senators hockey?
Enjoying their demise.
I'm gonna watch it. I'm gonna watch it, and I'm gonna have a lot of fun. I'm gonna watch the game, and it's gonna be a good time.
It is gonna be a good time. I'm excited for that one.
Yeah,
I'll have that one on in the background while
Yeah.
I'm watching the team I really care about.
Yeah. We got Felix Robinson here from Norway, treasured member of the Discord community. Next year, ça sent la coupe.
No.
Yep. Oui.
No.
Montréal.
No.
Playing the parade. Planer la parade. Excuse me.
No.
No. Okay. Olmark better have a good game or the memes will be crazy. Exactly.
Yeah, you know what's crazy?
It'll be a good time.
It's been like 4 years in a row that the Sens have brought in a new goalie. That is supposedly going to be the answer. Now, this one I actually am confident in.
Yep.
But is it an Ottawa problem? Or is it just the goalies who they brought in problem?
I mean, from what I have been told and have heard over the years, a lot of it is an Ottawa thing. The previous ownership, it was tough. It was a really rough experience. And now, what was it? I think it was Olmark who said himself that Daniel Alfredson spoke to him before he signed his extension and was like, look, I didn't really think much of Ottawa when I showed up. It was just a place for me to play hockey. And he's like, he's like, I know you're family oriented. Olmark, that is. He's like, I know you're family oriented. And Ottawa's a great place to raise a family. It's a great city. It's a this and that. So like, it would be really great if you stuck it out and signed with us. And he did. And so it's like they have that dynamic now where it's like you have people who are well-versed with, you kind of have to repair the image from the previous ownership group. And a good way to do that is have the legends of the team from when things were good going, look, like it's a new dawn here. you might have some doubts based on what you might have heard or seen, especially having been playing in Ottawa as a Bruin and a Sabre for a long time. It's like now you're elsewhere. It's like there's a new arena
in the Atlantic.
Yes, in the same division, yeah. And it's like elsewhere you've got a new arena coming, and so yeah, having a person come to you and be like, yeah, like we're gonna change, things are changing here, and Ottawa's not that bad of a place, which I would agree. Ottawa is an underrated place in Canada. It's not that bad, but the arena is just in the middle of a field out in the woods, so that stinks. So hopefully it works out. I want the Ottawa Senators to be good, because when Ottawa is good, hockey is good in Ontario.
But
it is crazy.
But we need angry Senators fans to drive up our engagements.
No, we don't. I'm tired of it. I'm ready for the angry Blues fans. Blues fans seem to be angry these days.
They are.
So I'm ready for a turning of the page.
Because they know their team sucks. They just haven't admitted it yet.
Well, maybe Zach Bolduc will rescue them.
Get out of here. Zach Bolduc to the rescue. No, not a chance.
Can't say it's impossible. Someone said, "Did I just hear Will say glazing?" Yes,
did.
It is a how do you do, fellow kids? Exactly. I am that. But that's adapt or die, right? That's what they say. Adapt or die. And I also love the term. It's really
a funny term.
It's a good one. Yeah, glazing and going to Costco, getting some glizzies. It's good times. I was actually at Costco yesterday and held myself.
Yes, just don't get them from Ray Ann's in Edmonton.
Oh yeah, if you're in Edmonton Costco, do not if you see a Somalian guy that looks like the guy in the chat who's running the store or the restaurant, don't buy food. He's a saboteur.
Sorry, Ray. I had to throw you under the bus.
Yeah, he loves Costco. He loves Costco. Everybody loves Costco.
We're gonna get a very angry message in a second.
Probably. Cut that. All right. Where are we at? Hey, did you see that Noah Kozik signed with the Hitmen, and the expectation is he'll go to college once he's old enough? Yes, I did see that. It popped up while we went on the show. If you're not aware, Noah Kozik is the next little tiny baby boy superstar in the Western hockey world of Canada. He's like 5'6".
So he's a Scouching small boy.
He is a wizard who can cook. I love him. He's a really, 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 really good young little guy, but he'll be fun. He'll be a fun watch with Calgary. And yeah, this is the thing that's going to start happening, right? Players are going to go, okay, now I don't have to pull this stuff where it's like, well, I don't want to play here because I'm going to go to college. It's like, now you can juggle both options, and it's really good. AJ Spellacy was very impressive during his preseason games to both fans and coaches. What is it to you? Is his scoring ceiling this year with his full focus on hockey? Could he have a Poitras-esque rise? Well, Spellacy is his style of play and his natural profile will jump out at you. He's big, he's fast, and he's got some skill. I like AJ Spellacy. I thought where they drafted him, I liked the pick. I rated Chicago's draft class last year, even though I didn't really agree with Lev Shinov at 2. I thought they did really well. And Spellacy is part of that. So I think he should be a premier player for Windsor. Windsor should be a team that is much better this year than they were last year. I love seeing young players go deep in camp. I will say, though, that nothing is ever guaranteed. Like, there's a lot of people talking about all kinds of players who had really good camps and all kinds of stuff, and I'm guilty of it too. But preseason is different. Preseason is not regular season, right? The guys who know they're making the team, they're not doing the thing. They're getting their legs warm. They're not trying to make the team. And it's a very different environment. So I expect him to take a big step. He's a good player. I think Matthew Poitras making the team, I watched some of the games of him with Boston, and he wasn't the most amazing NHL player. Smart puck mover, but I felt like it's just that Boston didn't want to have to send him back to junior because they have to. They couldn't put him in the AHL, and they would rather have had him on the NHL team and play his game, and he ended up injured. So I don't know. these things take time and long term. I mean, Spellacy might be a guy that you look back on and go, yeah, the 3rd round pick was a great idea, and he's an NHL player here and there. But I always set my bar low and see what happens. But for Spellacy, I expect him to have a good year.
The Kobe bar low?
Exactly. Speaking of which, traded to the Oshawa Generals. Hasn't scored a point yet, but he's been traded. And that was a huge trade. If you want the OHL trades, man, they're always entertaining. We had someone sass the Leafs in French. So there's that.
I can't understand it, so I don't care.
Yep. So go Abs go. Were you a fan of Harrison Brunick? If not, are you after his great camp? Oh, what a fun topic. Exactly what we were just talking about. I mean, he was good in camp, but again, Brunick is a player that will stick out to you if you are sort of sitting back and just watching him skate. He's a really good skater. He's got a bit of skill, and he's aggressive, right? Like his natural, just like AJ Spellacy, like being a big, fast, physical guy with some skill, that will stick out naturally. Brunick is also a very good forward skater, great, aggressive offensive guy. But it's to me, like with him, it was always about the details off the puck defensively and in his own end, bringing the puck out reliably without doing it all himself. That's where things were a little rougher. So I had him ranked. He was like a late 2nd, early 3rd for me, which I think is reasonable. But yeah, and the other thing too is like there are a lot of players who I really, really loved in this past draft who weren't even in camps, right? They were in Europe or they were in college. Like Teddy Stiga, I feel like if he played in Nashville's camp, people would probably fall in love with him too, but he wasn't there. And he's going to be playing Boston College this year, and he's probably going to look great. So, like, everybody loves their own guys, right? Like, everybody sees the guys that their team drafts, and they love them. And also, I will say, too, though, the young players out there are getting better every year. Like, they're getting better and better. And in a situation where you have a guy who was a 2nd-round pick or a 3rd-round pick this year relative to guys that were a 2nd or 3rd-round pick 4 or 5 years ago, there might be more to like there than there was 4 or 5 years ago. And that's just kind of how things go. What do you think of Nikita Artemonov, star of the season in the KHL? Oh, start of the season. I see. He is the star of the season so far, though. We're going to go through him first, actually. He's going to be a guy that we're going to watch a game of and take a look at probably over the next week. So we'll have more detail on that. But he's looked really good. I mean, he's always been a guy that everything goes well except putting the puck in the net a lot of the time, and he's putting the puck in the net a lot more now. So I'm not exactly sure why, but we'll find out over the next little while.
And we'll break it down for you.
Exactly.
We're
gonna
all at once.
All at once. Which is better, SHL or NCAA? I'm SHL. Mm-hmm. Compare Axel Sandin Pellikka to Lane Hudson. Sandin Pellikka is a more mobile player. I think his footwork and mobility. Hudson has that PK Subban style move your feet a ton, but he also goes places, right? Sandin Pellikka, I think, has a more calmer approach to the game. He's more of a shoot first guy from the perimeter rather than a Lane Hudson dangle everybody and go around everybody. Sandin Pellikka can do that. He does have a bit of that, but it's not as much. They're cut from the same cloth, I would say. But and I feel like in terms of like projectability, they're both somewhat similar. It's just Sandin Pellikka is going to have to earn the minutes in Detroit, and I don't know what Detroit looks for in defensemen. Really, I don't know. But
beef,
Sandin
they like
Pellikka,
beef,
which is not Sandin Pellikka. So we'll see how that goes. Whereas Hudson in Montreal, it's just such a natural fit, and it seems to work. He looked great last night for sure.
Yes.
But yeah, 10 out of 10 times I go with the Pro Hockey League in Sweden over the college league. The college, the thing for me is like a lot of teams are not at all on the same class as others. I think that will change with the CHL players going. I feel like there's going to be a lot more parity in the NCAA. It's already turning into a bit of a scramble. But in the CHL, there are fewer teams, and it's professional, and it's physical, and it's really fast. And I'll take this SHL any day. Potter looked good against Air Force, and that's what I mean. I like Cullen Potter a lot. Air Force is not a great college team, and so like it's like when I watched Levshinov last year. The only game I tracked where he had a shot assist that wasn't a shot of his own was in the first game I tracked, and it was against Canisius College, right? So it's like everything else, he was much more of just a defenseman. And so that's cool. But yeah. Anywho, Frondell is with Djurgården. He played a pro game the other day. Reese Hamilton thoughts. I'm going to have to skip that one. I haven't gotten a good look at him this year. So tomorrow I'll have a look at him when he plays more games. I usually let guys get a couple of games under their belt before I look at them in detail. So probably next week sometime I'll take a look at him. So you can ask, I'd say a week Monday. And yes, I was talking about Simon Wong or Wong, I think they said on the commentary. And yes, he is the OJHL guy going to Boston University. So they see something in him, and I do too. It's just, yeah, he's a very raw player. And I feel like, you give him a year in the USHL and 4 years in college, and maybe there's something there. Might have already covered this when today's waivers were announced, but any thoughts on the Lavoie waiver saga? I can't remember where you ranked him in 2019, but obviously development has not gone well. I did not like Raphael Lavoie in 2019, and I will say in 2019 my tracking project was much weaker. I had Lavoie, where was he? I had him at 30 that year, but I had guys like, I don't know. I had like Nick Robertson a lot higher. I had him at Robertson at 23, Hoglander at 19. Who were guys also that went later?
Nick Robertson should have been at 1, Will, because he is Nick Robertson.
Yeah.
Even though I love Jack Hughes.
Where did he go, Lavoie? He went like 35th or something, right? Yeah. He went 38th. So who did I have? Like Kaliev I had pretty high.
He just gets no play time, and they hate.
But he would have been, he would have been gone by that time. If it wasn't, man, dude, imagine the Edmonton Oilers had Cole Caulfield and Niels Hoglander on the team. Could you imagine?
That'd be crazy.
Like Connor McDavid shooting passes to Cole Caulfield, and Niels Hoglander throwing pucks around with like Ryan Nugent-Hopkins. Bonkers is. It would be crazy.
It's okay.
It'd be crazy.
Edmonton got another high pick in that draft, who is now on their team. Vasily Podkolzin.
That's true. They have Podkolzin now, and he looked decent.
Yeah.
I thought he looked decent. Yeah, he looked decent. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. I never really saw that good of an NHL player out of Lavoie. I saw a decent complimentary guy, maybe, and it's like those are really tough to make the NHL. Like it's. Like he's a decent AHL guy because you can do that, but the NHL is faster, more physical, everything. And, generally it's the same thing. It's like guys who play like that in the NHL generally were significantly more impactful until the NHL. And then they found a role doing that to make it work. Right. Like that's the general pattern. And I find guys like that increasingly harder to project as the years go on, and the more I watch and the more I track. Landon DuPont thoughts. Fact. I mean, it is a fact that he's amazing. Landon DuPont rocks 2027 draft. Every time I've seen him this season, both for Everett and when tracking teams playing Everett, he's excellent. Dynamic, aggressive offensive player. Shifty, and I feel like 2 more years in the WHL and he's going to be so dumb. It's going to be so dumb. Like it's so good. He's so good. Did someone actually post the Wikipedia definition of what a monocle is? Am I that old? Do people not know what a monocle is? If that's true, then fine, cool. He did post it. Type of corrective lens used to correct or enhance the visual perception of only one eye. But that's the thing. I guess if you had like an injury and you needed a monocle, then yeah, I guess that makes sense. Anyway, crazy. Week 1, way too early awards. Montebo for the Vezina, Casey for the Calder, and whoever Calgary's coach is for the Jack Adams.
I think his name is Ryan Huska?
It is Ryan Huska, yeah, it is. Yeah. Jordan Gavin thoughts. Another one I haven't taken a look at. I saw him playing with Jackson Smith, and the thing about Jordan Gavin, like from what I remember watching more of him last year, is he's a skilled kid, like really fun to watch, but there's no real like jam there, right? And I wonder if that's different now, so I can't really speak to that specifically. But like you look at his penalty minute numbers and he has like 0 over the last 2 seasons or 3 seasons. And it's like, yeah, that might mean that he's just really good at picking his spots and not taking penalties. But in his case, I feel like it's because like he just like is not going into the corners. He's not jabbing at people's feet, trying to get pucks loose and accidentally tripping people. Like there's just, yeah. I mean, he's a tough one because it's like there's skill, there's potential, and I think he'll get drafted. He should get drafted, but I don't know. I haven't also taken a good look at him yet, so we'll see later on. Is the Goosh loose? I believe he's in the lineup. I'm pretty sure he made the team. As far as I know, they told him he made the team. Yeah, he's listed on the 4th line with Nico Sturm and Ty Dellandrea, which we'll see how that goes. I like Nico Sturm, and Ty Dellandrea can crash and bang, I guess, but I like Gushchin, and I feel like he deserves a good long look.
Mm-hmm.
Bedard, 164 points over under. Take the over. Slam the over on that.
Realistically, you slam the
Hard.
under. Sorry.
I
think
someone mentions that Barkov is the most underrated player.
I think that was in response to me talking about Booch.
Buchnevich. Yeah,
but I don't think Barkov is the most underrated player in the league. When you are constantly told that somebody is the most underrated player in the league by everybody,
and they're not wrong, right? At the time, they weren't wrong.
Yes, but it is still a thing.
Yeah, you still hear it
years later, like 5 years later.
Yeah. It's like then you're arguing like he's better. It's like that he's better than that. It's like we're still underrating him. He's even better. And it's like,
I mean,
I don't think so.
He can still be underrated a little bit, but I would not call him the most underrated player in the league.
I mean, everybody just watched him win a Stanley Cup, and he was a very good part of that team.
Oh, yes, he was. He was the number 1 center on that team, which is the key ingredient, I believe, to winning a Stanley Cup is a number 1 center.
Yep.
You can't do it without one.
Yep. Yeah. Where would you want Landon DuPont amongst past high-end defense prospects? Oh, geez. I mean,
it's too early to tell, right?
It's too early to tell, but Landon DuPont is a little different. Like, I'm looking at my past lists, and like in 2024, I probably would take him over everyone. Like, I'm going to double check that, but I mean, not everyone in the entire draft, I don't think, but
all the defensemen.
Yeah, well, who were my top-rated defensemen last year? Bouillon, I'd probably take him over Zeev Bouillon. I'd take him over Adam Jiricek. I'd take him over Frey, Parekh, Levshinov. 23, I'd take him over. I would probably take him over Simishev. Probably, yeah. 22.
You love Dmitry.
And I love Simishev. I'd take him over. Yeah, 2022 was Nemitz and Jiricek. Like, I like him more than those guys. So yeah, like I feel like he's probably one of, and this coming season, like I like the defenseman this season quite a bit. So I don't know where he would compare in like, but I mean he's an 09 too, like he's really young, but all things considered, like he looks unbelievable.
Man. That makes me feel old.
Yeah, he was born after I graduated high school, which is crazy.
He was. Yeah, that's nuts.
Yeah. But anyway, but he's an unbelievable player, just an unbelievable player, and probably a threat for first overall. Like, I don't think I've ever ranked a defenseman first overall except for Rasmus Dahlin, and that was 2017.
That would have been 18.
Yeah, 2018, because 2019 was Jack Hughes. 2020, I had Lafreniere. 2021 was Beniers. 22 was...
You had Shane Wright, but
Shane Wright, Logan Cooley, but not a defenseman.
Yes.
2023, like I haven't had a defenseman first overall ever. It's not going to happen this year, I don't think. So yeah, I feel like it's possible for 2027, but again, it's still very early. But he looks really, really freaking good already in the WHL as a 15-year-old, which is craziness.
I think Tony's doing an interview with him soon.
Yes, he is. Yes,
not for game tape, but he's doing an interview with him.
Yeah. Who amongst the consensus top guys would you say have the biggest risk factor in terms of not hitting their ceiling? That's a very good question. Based on the guys that I've seen that I have at the top end, I want to say Michael Misa, just because, just because I don't think he has, if you haven't yet, it's also worth listening to. We talked about elite prospects on Monday. They put out their video talking about how they came to those conclusions in the meeting that they had, and one of the things they said about Porter Martone was that he lacks a little bit of pace in his game, which I did a game of him today, and I think that there is truth to that. But I'm also not super concerned about it based on the other things in his game that are so good. And I don't think and the reason he's not with James Haggins for me is because he's not the best centerpiece of a line, right? He's not the guy. James Haggins is the guy, right? And so with Martone, he's just an extremely good secondary guy and brings so much to the table. And I think his physical tools are going to be enough to make things work in the NHL in some way. Michael Misa, I think might there's potential that he ends up a guy in the NHL that needs a supporting cast, right? Someone to get him the puck, someone to move the puck to, someone to cook a little bit for him, but he can still feast, if you take a guy like that second overall and he ends up, a second line center, third line, really good third line center or something, I think that might be what you're getting at. But I do think that the mind that he has and the physical development from here could make him an elite hockey player. So I don't know. I mean, I have guys in my first round as well that I think are really risky in their own way. I really like LJ Mooney, but he's an extremely risky pick because of how small he is. And now he's really badly injured, but God, he's an electrifying hockey player. And if it works, I mean, he also is rambunctious as heck. He's very Logan Stankoven-like, where he's very small, but he's super aggressive and hits guys and makes plays and shoots the puck like a lightning rod, like Zeus. He's like a teeny little Zeus. And so we'll see how it goes with him. But yeah, I think that cautiously I would say Michael Misa, but I feel like even that is a stretch because of how smart he is. Yeah. You've probably already been asked about it, but is Artemonov showing higher offensive upside? Okay, so again, we're going to put out a video about Artemonov probably in the next week or two, so I'll be able to talk more about that then. Are there any forward prospects who are flashy, exciting prospects who might not be the biggest or a first round talent yet you love watching them? There's a lot of them. LJ Mooney is probably the most notable one. Victor Eklund's not the biggest guy, but I don't know about he is a first round talent. Ivan Fomin in Russia, that's another one. Really love him. I'm trying to think, who are the small guys this year? There's a lot of them. There's a lot of really small players. Lucas Kaplan is a really fun small player that I love. I tracked a game of him the other day. Didn't get a whole lot done, but you can see signs of something really great there. I like Gavin Cornforth as well. I tracked him this week and mentioned him. Adam Banak. I think there's a chance Banak isn't a first round pick, but I'm not gonna hold my breath on that. But LJ Mooney is probably the best answer to your question. I like Carter Murphy, the defenseman for Youngstown, but I can't say I've seen him in detail in the USHL yet. But yeah, those are some good starting points, I think. The way that Carolina is handling Felix Ungersorm in the AHL is interesting. Apparently, they're going to play him at center all year, despite having. Yeah, they are. They are going to play him at center, having never played the position before. But I get it. I see why. And when you watch Felix Ungersorm play hockey, you can absolutely see why they might look at him and go, "I think you could play center with enough time," because he's not the fastest dude. He's not the speedster, high-speed, dangle, fancy pants guy that you love to see. He's not Dylan Larkin. But he is, like we just talked about Michael Misa. He's a guy where if you get him the puck from the defensive side of the game, he'll make a play that is always a really good play, and he will get the puck up the ice. And when it is there, he can then participate offensively. If you strategically remove him from the play, but keep him in open ice and keep him in transition as a really important stitch for the line. I think that makes a ton of sense. He's also quite small, so putting more responsibility along the boards as a winger might be a bit of a risk. And I think maybe he's a case where, especially if you're an experimental team like Carolina, you might go, he might be small for open ice play and, being a center in the NHL, so to speak, but he's just so smart and moves the puck so well that it might all just come out in the wash at the end of the day. But yeah, I know for a fact that Carolina loves him, and in the draft they had him super high. A few teams had him super high, actually. I know for a fact, like way higher than most people had him. And this is the reason. They see him as a very versatile, smart puck mover who sees the game really, really well. Stankoven's on the top line in Dallas. Yes, it is good for the brand. Exactly.
Awesome.
Yes. Awesome brand. Someone mentioned that for a monocle, you can have two eyes with different diseases. That's true. You could get a disease in one eye, and that could mean a monocle. Thoughts on Landon DuPont's start? We gave a whole thing about him. He's sick. And this is it for the day. If the Leafs trade Timothy Liljegren, oh boy, what is a return the Leafs would and should be happy with?
My demise.
Nothing.
My
like
literal demise.
It's such a torpedo to the depth chart defensively. Like Connor Timmins did not look good last night.
No, he's the reason they lost.
And so trading him,
they lost.
Trading him now, I think long term makes them probably look kind of dumb, and short term torpedoes their depth chart. Because if Connor Timmins goes down, who's the next option? Marshall Rafai, like
Yanni Hakanpää, baby.
Yanni Hakanpää. Like, okay, if that's what you want, okay. But the Leafs, I guarantee it, if Timothy Liljegren goes somewhere else and a team puts him on the power play and gives him some middle pair minutes or something, Leaf fans are going to go, we're so dumb. Why did we trade that guy? We do this all the time. We keep making the same mistakes. Like, Timothy Liljegren is 25. Right?
Yes, something like that. He's
25. He's turning 26 at the end of the regular season this year. So, yeah, like you're gonna regret it, because he does, like, especially if you watched what Connor Timmins brings to the game and always has brought to the game. And I'm on the record of being a big Connor Timmins fan historically, right? Like, he was a guy I had in my first round when I first started doing this stuff. I love him. He's a great puck mover, really smart passer, but in terms of on a competitive, contending NHL team, I don't think he's a night in, night out guy that you can really depend on, especially defensively. Whereas Liljegren, sometimes you want to bench him. Sometimes he makes mistakes. Sometimes there are issues, but overall, he's a really solid player.
You just don't notice the good things he does, because most of it is subtle. It is small things where he's making sure a forward can't get past him on a dump in, and allowing his partner to retrieve the puck without any pressure, because he is just kind of there as a shield. Like, he's running interference but not actually touching a person so that they can't get to the puck in time. Like, that's the stuff that Timothy Liljegren does. It's small, minute details about, like, in transition, where they're chipping the puck in at the blue line. He just kind of stays with the person and doesn't let them pass. And your eye is on the puck where his D partner is retrieving it, but he's just clogging up the neutral zone, and he's kind of like a giant barricade. Well, he's not big, but he's a barricade, essentially.
Yeah. He's a speed bump.
Yes, he's a speed bump.
But I mean, like, it's and the fact, and he's also a shot threat.
Yes,
like,
and they don't use that shot threat at all.
Use it. So it's like, look, but it's the same thing as we talked about with Anaheim. Like, watching the Leafs last night, it is very obvious that, and what I have been told about behind the scenes with the draft and their strategy bringing players in, Timothy Liljegren, just like, say, Olen Zellweger in Anaheim, it's more of an uphill battle for a guy like that to crack a roster like this, because their expectations of their players are not what these players do well, right? Like, the Leafs are weighing other traits more, so it puts a guy like Liljegren on the outs. But I still don't understand how that puts Connor Timmins on the in
Yes.
if what they're trying to.
Unless it's
it doesn't
money
really make
wise.
sense.
The only thing
Unless
that,
it's money. Yeah,
and even then, like, he doesn't even make that much.
I don't know. Regardless, if he gets traded and the team that gets him is going, yeah, like we're not getting Radko Gudas here, but we're getting a second power play shot threat, middle pair guy who can eat 18 minutes a night and chip in and play good hockey.
I'm gonna be so mad.
Great.
I'm gonna be so
and
mad.
The Leafs are going to need guys like that. Again, he's 25.
And they're going to get a third-round pick,
guys.
probably.
Yeah, they're going to get a mid-round pick or something for him because they don't have the money. Like, they might save a little bit of cap space if they trade him, but who are they bringing in that makes less? That is going to, like, are they going to swap him for another defenseman? Because
Why?
their forwards are pretty stacked. Like, I don't know where they're going to find a forward to crack the roster, right? Like, they just added Pacioretty and Steven Lorentz.
And Calle Yarncroke's on injured reserve or LTIR,
Right.
one of the two.
And he'll be
He'll
eventually.
play. Bobby McMahon will play.
Yeah, Bobby McMahon is on his way. So you're not going to trade him for a forward. Yeah, like it makes no sense because their defensive depth chart is really weak overall. Like at that point, right? Because they're playing guys like Connor Timmins.
And to me, it's like you're trading one of your only second pair defensemen. Like there's maybe you can even make the case that OEL's not really a second pair defenseman. You can make the case that Jake McCabe is not really a second pair defenseman. I think Timothy Liljegren is very much an established, at least in my mind, second pair defenseman who's really good at it.
On that group, yes, I agree.
Timothy Liljegren is the third best defenseman on the Toronto Maple Leafs, behind Morgan Rielly and Chris Tanev.
Probably. OEL maybe, but
no, I wouldn't take OEL over him.
McCabe is more physical.
I don't like Jake McCabe. I just don't.
He's very fine.
Yeah,
you know?
He's a good third pair defenseman.
He's a good guy.
I don't like him as a second pair.
Yeah, I know.
He's just kind of slow and
he shot the puck a few times last night, and it
was bad.
I was
you're utilizing more shots from the blue line, and you're not putting in your best weapon that way.
Yep.
Why?
But
there's even a case that Timothy Liljegren should be running the power play because he's a much better shot threat than Morgan Rielly.
Right. But at the end of the day,
and I get it, most Leaf fans don't like him. I have talked to my uncle who thinks he is trash, but
because he's foreign.
Well, no, it's because he doesn't play this physical, hard-hitting style, and that's what they want. That's what it seems the team wants to have.
That's what fans want.
Yeah, that's what the fans want too. But give me my smaller, mobile Swedish defenseman who can move the puck and really rip it once in a while.
Remember Anton Strawman?
Yeah, of course I remember Anton Strawman.
When the Leafs traded him for Wayne Primo, and he went on to have an unbelievable career, and they traded him when he was like 25 or 24. Or when they traded Alex Steen, and he was like 24, 25, and went on to have a great career with St. Louis.
You know what's hilarious about that? Those two were two of my favorite players. Like when Sundin left, I loved Anton Strawman. Like for a time when Sundin wasn't there and Jason Blake wasn't there, because I was a Jason Blake guy as a kid. Anton Strawman was my guy. Why? I don't know. The Leafs weren't that good, and he kind of was. And they just kept moving away from that.
Just for posterity, last season when you look at the team's goals, like points per game amongst defensemen, Liljegren was second on the team.
Of course he was.
Behind Morgan Rielly. Jake McCabe had 28 points last year in 73 games.
They were all secondary assists, I bet.
I don't know. But the point is, like TJ Brody, who admittedly was not great last year.
He fell off in the last
26 points. Like Liljegren was on pace for almost 40 points last year, and he only played 55 games because of injury. But like, you can't tell me that he's a guy who deserves to be traded, or like the especially the way they phrased it, Elliot Friedman, right? Like they're looking to find a landing spot. It's like that to me indicates that they are well beyond the tinkering with the idea. It's like they are literally going, this guy does not fit, and so we're going to find a place that does, and I don't know what they're going to get in return, right? Like
I said,
Brian Dumoulin, like
no, they might get a third round pick. They might have to pay to get rid of him.
Yeah, they might have to pay to get rid of him because he's a decent sized cap hit.
I mean, if I'm the Edmonton Oilers, I'm calling.
Oh my God,
I'm like,
yes.
holy, you've given me a lifeline.
Yeah. Cody Ceci comes back? Or no, he left Edmonton.
He left.
Right?
He's in San Jose now.
Right.
But like Timothy Liljegren on the Edmonton Oilers is a cheaper option.
Yes.
If I'm Edmonton, sign me up.
And the Oilers, like,
Could
they
use
have the
it.
pieces to make it work.
They could
send them a
really
London Knight. Send them Sam O'Reilly for Liljegren and all the other draft picks
I
that
mean,
Toronto
they won't
has
do
left.
that, but
I know they won't. I'm kidding.
But like, you know,
Yeah, like
to me, Timothy Liljegren is a really, really good player that is completely undervalued.
Yeah. I don't know what's going to happen, but trading him is a mistake. I think that's pretty clear. I don't know. I feel like I have to hope that from Toronto's perspective, they watch the game back last night. They go through a couple more games before making any rash decisions. And they go, you know what? Yeah, probably should play the guy. And hopefully he makes them go, okay, yeah, he's a player. Because there's other teams in this league that would absolutely love to have him on the team
Carolina
and would have a job. Don't even go there.
You know that's where he's going to go, maybe.
Or I don't know. Like Pittsburgh.
Actually, that would work.
Yeah, if he goes to Pittsburgh, he'd be instantly what? Like their number. Oh, I wanted to look at their daily face-off.
Well,
Pittsburgh. Yeah, like their defense group now is Grelchik, Letang, Pedersen, Carlson, Graves, St. Ivany.
He might be their
second
best
pair
defenseman.
there. Yeah, he might be a top pair defenseman in Pittsburgh if they traded him there. Second pair.
He might actually just be the best defenseman on that team.
Yeah, he might. It's entirely possible. So
not historically, but right now.
No,
just so we make it clear.
Penguin defenseman ever. The best Pittsburgh Pittsburgh Penguin defenseman to ever live. Paul Coffey, take a hike. I'm just kidding. One of my favorite players in the world. Okay, last question of the day. Carter Bear. Thoughts on Carter Bear? I like him a lot. He's in my first round in the 20s, I think. Good player, loves the game, competes hard, plays hard, got some skill too. Just a workhorse kid that I really, really like watching. So I'll have my eyes keenly trained on him for the rest of the year. He's on pace for almost 100 points this year after 7 games, which is pretty good. But anyway, yeah, it's gonna be good times. On that note, we're gonna call it a day. Thank you very much for joining us. This was a lot of fun. Again, we'll be back Monday night. And we're going to have some non-stream content coming in the next week or two, and we're going to start ramping things up with Tony over the next month or so. And it's going to be a good time.
David Phillips' question because it came in too late.
Yeah, we're not going to answer. Yeah, he came in too late. Wake up earlier. So what else is going on? Yeah, we got a big night in the NHL tonight. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, we're brought to you by Fanatics. You can use our link in the description or the QR code in the window. You can give us a kickback on anything in the store. Puck Preps Hockey also supports the show. You can get all your NCAA and CHL prospect needs from there. Fractal Hockey Consulting, which is my business for hand-tracked targeted player analysis recruitment packages for the NCAA Europe and beyond. And of course, a subscription to Scouching.ca would get you access to our really fun Discord server where we've been in there the last couple nights watching some hockey together.
Yes.
Exclusive NHL prospect data with insights into the data that I track, usually under Fractal Hockey, as well as subscriber-only written content and plenty of other cool stuff you can check out there, including our merchandise like Scouchwear.com. We got sweaters and stickers and all kinds of fun stuff, so you can check all that stuff out.
Buy
there.
Our merch.
Yeah, do that. And Project Get Us a Studio 2025.
It'd be awesome.
So AJ, any parting words? What's going down, and then we'll take off.
Look, I understand last night the Leafs may have lost their shutout streak or non-shut. They finally didn't score a goal in a game for the first time in 3 years. But
that's a crazy streak, by the way.
Like it's close to that. It's over 100 games. Like it was in the 160s, 170 range. But that being said, there's something that hasn't happened since 1967 that will. Leafs for Cup. Plan the parade, baby. We'll see you on Monday.
See ya.